Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me in the locker room today. I'm Alan Locher. Golden Globe nominee Mel Harris is here to discuss her new role in the film, the comedy drama Queen of Knives. The film is currently available to rent, own on all digital HD, internet, cable, and satellite platforms worldwide, and as well as on DVD. Mel made her television debut 38 years ago with a small role in an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, although it was her first starring role as Hope Murdoch Steadman in the ABC series Thirtysomething, which ran from 1987 to 1991, that earned her a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress in a Television Series. Queen of Knives also stars Jean Pope, who also produced and co-wrote the movie with Lindsay Joy. Please help me welcome to the locker room, Mel Harris. Hi, Mel.
Well, lovely. That's a nice intro. Thank you very much. You did some research there. I did remember
Well,
what you were
thanks for
talking about.
being here. Thank you so much
Pleasure.
for being
It's
here. I
my
really
pleasure.
enjoyed Queen of Knives. And then, as I told you backstage, I watched King of Knives as well today. So
The
excited to
precursor
talk
or the
about it.
after cursor. I'm not sure which way that went. So, yeah.
Well, it was interesting because things that take place in Queen of Knives that are a big focus, I got to see more of in the first one today, which was interesting to see it play out. I don't want to give things away just in case anybody hasn't seen it, but
Right.
it was
No, it
interesting to,
definitely informs it. Absolutely.
yeah. Well, going back to King of Knives, what was it that initially drew you to the role of Kathy?
Well, I really liked the script. I thought it was really an interesting examination of a family in turmoil, falling apart, different stages of that, as well as then their progress or lack thereof, depending on which character in the film we're talking about, um, of their journeys. And I mean, I sometimes I think that sounds like a trite word, but they really are on these very interesting and very different journeys than people that we knew them as before, including myself.
Yeah, well, yeah, I did find it interesting. And then I love for people who maybe haven't seen, either yet, to see them both. It's really interesting um, how you describe that, the journeys, because everybody is on a very different journey. Both films, as I said, were written by Lindsay Joy and Gene Pope, and he plays
Mhm.
your husband, Frank. Were you familiar with Gene's work prior to these films?
Well, I was before I walked in to meet him, thanks to the bennies of the internet and Google and all that. Um, and he was a big part to do it too. I just walked in. I liked the feeling of it. I read with him. I can't actually don't remember if I read with him or with the casting director, but um, I just like the vibe of it all. I like like I said, I like the script. I liked Gene, and I thought it was a really interesting part for me as an actor.
Well, speaking of Queen of Knives, how would you describe the film?
I think Queen of Knives, we are watching the sort of post breakup of this family that is the family's not disintegrating. It's just not the same kind of family that it was. They still are a family. They still love each other, even though in the film my divorce comes through. Um, it's kind of like this person is the father of my two children, and for me, I think in most circumstances, you always care and or love the father of your children. That's a part of who your children are. You can't just divorce them and their
Well,
father. It's just a unit that stays together. I realize that's like Pollyanna, but for me, it's very important. And I liked that part of the film. I liked that Kathy could be there for him, even though she does not want to live with him. She does not want to be married to him any longer. She's over it. She's done it. She's had it.
it's so interesting that we're speaking today because we're very close with our neighbors, and one of them is a divorced mom of two. And today is her ex-husband's birthday, and I noticed her post, which was just a love fest to the father of her two boys. It's sort of exactly
Oh,
what you said.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm very good friends with my children's fathers.
Uh-huh.
A sort of a funny running joke. I always, in a story, will say to people, my son's brothers, and they look at me and they go like, "Wait a minute, you don't have what?" And I laugh because I do consider them my son's other brothers. I think my son has two mothers, et cetera. And I think that he would probably say the same thing. Actually, I know he would.
I
So for
love.
me, and I think that yes, people say, "Oh, your kids are so lucky that they have that." Well, but I'm also lucky too. That something that's a part of my child or my children's lives is still also a part of mine. And I think they're on their way, the Benetto family, to do this. They're just it's a work in progress. All of the characters, not even just Frank, who's played by Gene Pope, who's
Aren't we
probably
all
maybe a
a
little
work
more
in
than
progress?
others. Perpetual. Yes,
we, we we
absolutely.
we are. What was it like to work opposite him as an actor?
It was really interesting because he was very prepared, always very there. And yet we have this sort of, well, maybe even a little bit on camera, but we have this very cat and mouse playful relationship, even to this day. I give him as much of a
Crap.
hard time as I possibly can because I know I can get away with it. He knows I love him, and that there's no hard feelings. Oh, we're actually friends. I'm friends with his wife, who I adore, and so it's interesting that personal side has also come out of this work.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Kathy and Frank are going through, as you said, a separation and then divorce in Queen of Knives. What do you think the film says to adult children of divorce or to others going through similar separations?
That it can be really tough and challenging and crazy sometimes, painful, heart-wrenching. I mean, it's not an easy thing, even if you both know that you don't belong together anymore, even if your children are voting that you don't belong together anymore. And these are adult children that we're dealing
Yeah.
with. These aren't 5-year-olds. It's a different story. Um, and so, we're right up there, right a part of in Queen of Knives. You are right up there, right a part of that journey, right in your face.
That whole dinner scene is fantastic. When
We
people watch
specialize. The Benetto family specializes in dinner scenes.
in dinners. Yeah. I love that. Tell us about the your on-screen daughters, Roxy Pope, who plays Caitlin, and Emily Bennett, who plays Sadie. What were they like? And
Um,
getting the opportunity to really explore, your relationships with them again.
I mean, it's just fantastic. It was the first film that we did. There was such camaraderie, such support, such being there together. It was just an absolute tap dance to work. Quote Warren Buffett, I think it is. Um, and to do it again, I mean, how lucky am I? It's really, really nice. They're both incredible actors, and they're also incredible people at the same time. And I'm always blessed by those two elements in a person. Don't always get that. Um, I was very lucky in my first series. I had that, and it's continued throughout our lifetimes. And so it was like a really um, close repertory company that's kind of stayed that way. We still support each other in the ways that we do and run into each other and give big hugs and kisses.
I love that. There are a number of LGBTQ plus characters and themes in both films. How do you think really we've progressed in society since, you just mentioned 30-something, the Strangers episode from season 3 that aired in
Oh yeah.
1989.
Yes, where no advertisers would advertise. And the network, to their credit, ABC, thank you very much, stuck by Ed and Marshall, who are the creators and writers of our show, when we had two gentlemen in bed together. Ooh, horrors. But I mean, leaps and bounds. But you know what? And yes, we sit in leaps and bounds, and it's great. The things in Queen of Knives is fantastic. We have so much further to go. So much further to go in terms of the LG. I mean, it's it's a little mind-boggling in a lot of areas. We could get into politics, but then we'd need like 3 hours.
Well, as a gay Jewish man, we have a long way to go on many things here.
Yeah, you've got a lot of bases you're covering.
I got a lot
these
of bases
days.
to cover,
Yeah.
but you're right. I mean, it's interesting because we have come so far from that moment in 30-something, but we're at a pivotal point, I think, in our world where, where we should continually be going forward. It seems like we're going back in some areas, and that's the scary part.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's very scary, and it's also, for me, it's really hard to understand. It's just really hard to understand the backwardness of it. I would like people to be happy and be with people they love and care about. That for me is what's important.
Well, and that, you sort of describe that too when you're talking about like adult children encouraging parents to get divorced, because what they're encouraging is they want to see their parents happy.
Absolutely.
So
And the family happy, and that may be that they're not together. I mean, it's a long time. Kathy and Frank's marriage is a very long-term marriage. We have very adult children.
Absolutely, you do. Absolutely. If Gene came around with script number 3, would you be open to returning to Kathy?
I might be. I don't think that's a possibility. I don't really know that. I think that he may be done with Frank and ready to move on, but I'd always be happy to see what Gene had and to look at it, and who knows?
Yeah,
I never say
absolutely.
never.
Well, you've talked openly over the years about your marriages and that you believe in marriage, and you've been married.
Clearly, I must. I keep trying.
Well, and you've been married to Emmy Award-winning writer Bob Brush for 15 years now. Where did that belief stem from, begin, or?
I don't know. I mean, I grew up a nice little girl in middle-class New Jersey. You're supposed to, grow up and marry the captain of the football team and live happily ever after. That wasn't really me, who I was. But I I was someone who always believed in a relationship. I wasn't a dater particularly. I didn't really sleep around. Sounds funny. 6 marriages. Well, whatever. Um, and, and so, but I don't know. I just did. I believed in having a partner. I liked that, and I just married him. I don't know.
Well, I give you credit because I think so many of us who do go through heartache, whether it's a breakup or a divorce, we start to lose faith. And I love that you really still believed in it and weren't, didn't seem afraid to try again. And that's to your
Oh,
strength.
I was afraid. Now, wait a minute. I was afraid many, many times. I mean, going out and doing it again is, but it didn't prevent me from making mistakes again. And even beyond that, to continue to try to find something that fit, which my husband does. So there we go.
I saw one of your posts. I think it was about Bob's birthday, but wishing your best friend a happy birthday. I think that friendship helps.
It does. It does help. Yeah. I mean, we've been married for a good bit, as you said, 15 years. Wow, 15. Holy cow. But we've known each other a long time. We knew each other previously through work. That way.
And that's sometimes the best way, to meet previously.
Yes.
You mentioned, born in New Jersey, grew up in New Jersey and North Brunswick. What do you remember about your Jersey life?
I just have to say, I was born in Pennsylvania. I just have to correct that because I don't want my cousins and people to be upset with me.
Sorry. Yes, you grew up in Jersey, but born in. That's funny. They're coming for you.
Childhood. Yeah, exactly. I remember my childhood fondly. My dad was a coach at Princeton, and my mom taught science at the high school where I attended, New Brunswick High School. And they divorced when I was 12, I think, 13. But I think I learned a lot of really good things from them. My mother was clearly a feminist before that was even something that was there. She had a job. She went out. She worked. She basically raised me to believe I could do anything that I wanted to do. I'm trying to prove her right. I keep trying to prove her right. So, yeah, it was nice. It was a lovely, for me, it was a lovely upbringing. I liked the school I went to, I had friends. I still have lifelong friends from junior high school.
Wow.
Elementary school, actually, one of my best friend from that time, and still to this day, we met in grammar school. Do they
Wow.
still call it grammar school? Elementary school. I don't know what they call it anymore.
Yeah, I think elementary more. Do you get back to Jersey much? Do you still come visit?
Oh, I do. I do. One of the reasons that my husband and I moved back east from after 30 temporary years in Los Angeles, um, is because we have family here. I have a sister on Long Island and one in Jersey. And he has a sister on Long Island also. So, and our kids were big; they were living everywhere. So we thought, well, maybe we'll go back. So through a series of events, we ended up back in New York, not in Jersey. He's a Jersey kid too.
He is. Whereabouts?
Ridgewood, Park Ridge and Ridgewood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, not really
Lo-
far from where you are.
Love that. Was it an easy transition after those 30 temporary years?
Well, yeah, we moved back. Well, we sold one of our places, and we moved back and spent the next 7 months in LA working. I mean, so for the first three, probably 4 years, we spent a good deal of time in LA, and we had I couldn't remember where whatever was I was looking for in a closet somewhere because I didn't know where it was. But so we finally gave that up. So it's why we moved up now here up to Hope Pond, because we wanted one place. We travel a lot, and I think it was important to. Well, it's always important for me to have a home. I consider myself a gypsy who has a home. I always
Mm.
have. I've been traveling since my modeling days in New York, so for many, many years. But I always wanted a place to come home to.
How did you land up there? Did somebody introduce you to the area, or you just went in
Yes, my
search?
husband, who strangely enough lived in the house next door with his ex 30 some odd years ago, believe it or not. And he was showing me, we were kind of looking, playing around and driving down the street. He said, I think I know those people, but they look older. I said, honey, if you know them, they probably are older. And it turns out they were friends of his from that period in his life. And he mentioned that someone was selling their house next door to where he used to live and had not been on the market yet, one of those kind of things. So I said, well, here's our number, call us, whatever. And about 2 weeks later, I got a phone call, and the young man describing the house that he was selling for his aunt. And I said, well, I'd love to see it, thinking nothing would come of it, nothing. But we'd have to come tomorrow because on Wednesday we're on a plane to Los Angeles. So we drove up, we drove in the driveway, and I said to my husband, if that house is half as nice as this property, we're going to buy this house. And we did. The house wasn't quite half as nice as the land, but I've changed that now. I've remedied
Yeah.
that problem
Well,
finally.
the land is, I think, so much of why you fall in love
Yeah,
with the place. Yeah.
I think
It,
it's true. Yeah, yeah.
it's crazy. So take me back. Where did your love of the arts begin? You said modeling. So did modeling come first for you?
No, all my strange stories. I started modeling to make money to go to Barnard. I was going to be a criminal defense attorney, like F. Lee. I was going to be the female F. Lee Bailey, when that was something to aspire to, which is what it was at that time. Um,
Was there
and I
something
deferred for a
before?
couple of years.
Was there something that steered you there? A case, somebody in your family, or what?
To go
So,
towards the legal profession.
yeah.
Oh, you can ask anyone who's ever had a discussion with me. If I use discussion nicely. I have a very,
Oh
I
my
think I
God,
have a
that's
very logic, legalistic kind of mind. I love puzzles. I love, even now watching some of the proceedings that are going on, the jury selection and all that, just fascinated by what goes on there and how that is. And yeah, it's still, and yeah, yeah, loved all of Scott Turo's books, all of that kind of thing. So I don't know. I don't know why. I don't come from a family of lawyers or actors for that matter.
So you were heading off to Barnard for criminal.
Yeah, and so I deferred for a couple of years, and by that time, my modeling career was doing nicely, and I was living in London and Paris and Milan and just all of these places and traveling just everywhere, and it was eye-opening for little middle-class girl from New Jersey who, um, we didn't travel much. We went down to the shore. We went to our cottage down the shore, and that was our family vacation every year. But yeah, and then it just springboarded. I ended up in LA because my son's father, was going to AFI, the Film Institute there.
Mhm.
He's a photojournalist and was thinking about directing. And out of the blue, a woman who used to be the receptionist at Wilhelmina Models, who was now working at a management company in LA, called and said, "Hi, have you thought about acting?" And I said, "Well, I'm really very fun. I had a great commercial career going. I had great modeling career going, but I had studied acting." She said, "Well, let's meet and talk about it and whatever." And I did. And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm game." And that's sort of how it happened. And there's lots of series of events after that that I got very lucky with.
I love that. I love that. I was talking to the actress Deirdre Hall, and she was
Mhm.
going off to psychology, I think to study, but got into modeling and was making money. It's sort of like that thing, like you start and fell into really the same path you did, sort of fell into it.
Interesting.
Just
Interesting.
took
Yeah.
complete from where, you
Yeah. A
both thought
complete
you were headed.
change.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and this person calling me up, who used to be the receptionist, and now she's a manager. She's a big deal manager now. We no longer work together, but that happens too sometimes.
Do you watch a lot of the news for the court cases? I mean, there's a big one going
Oh,
on
there's a good
now.
court case on. I'm definitely there, and I love a legal drama or crime dramas. We're watching a show right now called Shetland, which is shot in a beautiful place, but it's more detectives
What is
genre,
that
but
on?
it is on. I don't know, but it's
Uh,
really good.
yeah,
Really
I'm gonna
good.
look it up. We like good.
Yeah, look at Shetland.
I
Yeah,
will.
and it's really, we're in season 3 now, which they changed the format. In the first 2 seasons, they do shorter excuse me, they do shorter pieces, and now in season 3, the whole season is one story, which I really love because you get lots more
Yeah.
things to think about and clues and all of that, so
Uh,
but
Um,
I'm very versatile in what we watch, so I like that.
do you watch a lot?
We do watch a lot, in the country, and it just depends. And like I said, we travel a lot, we work a lot. And so it's kind of just an escape at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Have some
I
dinner and yeah. So it's an escape depending on what we're watching. We watched the Taylor Swift. My sister was up the other day. We watched the Taylor Swift concert, which I hadn't seen, which I'm just so taken by that young woman. And she has a
um
new album coming out, as you know.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
Tomorrow.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
w-
People are lined up to try to
we
figure out what
actually
it
went to
is.
the concert. My husband is a bigger fan than I was, but I've always admired and respected. But
Yeah,
seeing that in person, Mel, was really, I felt like I was watching a one woman Beatle, the way she commanded
totally. I mean,
that.
just unbelievable. My sister said the same thing. She had gone to the concert with my niece, but just watching it and being and given what I do, I'm an
Yeah.
illusionist for career. Just she's just so it's so amazing to watch her um, perform, and it was kind of, they were doing scenes and moods and setting the pace for you, and not just coming out and singing, and that's fine too. I've seen many concerts like that, which are great, but just so interesting. And when you hear her talk, when she's interviewed, she's even more fascinating to me than even when she's on stage, because she's brilliant about what she does, and
Mm.
she speaks, and Um, I don't know. She's really admirable, really admirable.
She respects her fans in a way I don't think we've really
And her
witnessed.
crew. and her
Yes.
crew.
Yes.
I mean, this is a woman with a heart and a
Yeah.
brain and talent.
And how lucky for young girls, the role model. I mean, that was the interesting thing too. You think about, there were so many, she's been around already 20 years or something like that for this show. And there are mothers taking their child for the first time who, they grew up loving her. So yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was
It's
quite
very powerful. It's really
impressed.
interesting to hear that. Yeah.
And I love hearing, you know, because I think my sister did too. Like my sister watched the movie and not a fan, but like because everyone talks about her and the concert and the experience. And I think to be taken from watching it on, you watching it for the first time, I love hearing that experience for people who, might not have gone to the show, but they still were blown away by watching the visual of that.
Yeah. Now I wish I
That's
had gone to the show. So I was eyeing tickets to the Paris show the other day, but I'm actually going to be in LA promoting Queen of Knives.
Does
So there you go.
she still has more to do?
Oh yeah, she's got a whole European leg to do that hasn't started yet.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Well,
she's got the
I'm
whole
sure over the next
Amsterdam and
couple of
Paris and
days,
Vienna and stuff. You'll hear about it, I'm
I'm
sure.
sure over the next couple of days, there's going to be a lot of records broken again. It
Yeah,
really,
it's
the
it's so
power.
powerful, and but it's nice to see the power in the hands of a young, caring, giving uh, role model. I don't even want to call her a female role model because I think she's a role model for many things. It's I think it's interesting, her relationship these days with a football player. Well, my dad was a football coach at Princeton, so I know a lot about football. I know how to play football. I know the rules. I know the whole thing. That the Swifties are now getting into football because she's dating a football player. It's fantastic. It's the crossover we need in so many areas.
Well,
And
and
so
let's
I
pray
really like that
politically
too.
too.
Yeah. No, well, yeah, that's yeah, really powerful.
She's got some influence. Yeah, it's some. Who were some of your mentors along the way, whether it was teachers or maybe that agent who called you up and said, the secretary from the
Yeah,
agent.
it's yeah. Um, well, my mother was my biggest mentor. She was
Mm.
absolutely my best friend, and to me, she was powerful, all intelligent, and yeah. So start with that, and my family, which is lovely. I had a wonderful teacher. I had a home ec teacher named Joan Kaczynski. Hi, Miss K. Um, who was she was the kind of teacher that you could relate to and was um, she didn't let you get away with anything, but she would be there for you. She would you could go and talk to her. She was a very powerful force in that, and we still communicate today as well. Um,
What is she? Was she a
and
theater teacher or what?
no, she was a home ec teacher.
Wow.
She was the home ec teacher, yeah. And but she
Do
was
they?
just
I
it
mean,
wasn't the
we had home
subject, it
ec.
was the person.
Gotcha. We had home ec,
Yeah.
but do they still have that today? I don't even know. Is it
I think
still?
it's probably called something else.
Yeah.
I probably should have taken shop because then I could build things. But also I can sew and cook too, which doesn't hurt. Yeah, so I don't know. And then of course when I modeled, I had Wilhelmina, which I was a Wilhelmina model. And she was also a very powerful mentor, as was Fran Rothschild, who did the money side of the agency. But the whole agency support system was, I know not every model tells this story, but for me, it was great. It was very supportive. But I never really lost sight of how lucky I was to be doing that. I listened to people who were complaining about working and making a really, really nice hourly wage. And I'm like, I don't mean to put you down, but you should go walk down 8th Avenue and see what kind of job you can get with your high school education. Just saying, you'd be working at McDonald's or something. So I felt always really lucky by that group and that support.
And traveling the world for you, on their dime.
I was like on their
Mhm.
dime, and now I
Yeah.
love it. I mean, I've been to a lot of countries, and my first big pilot was I spent 5 weeks in Hong Kong. Um, so I hear people don't like to travel or whatever, and I respect that. But for me, it's sort of everything. I mean, Africa is my favorite place. Safari, anytime anybody wants to go, I am game. Just call me up.
Me too.
So
We did Tanzania.
fantastic, right? We did it. We
Ah,
renewed our vows in 2015 on the Masamara, my husband and I.
wow. We were hoping to go to South Africa in January for my husband's 50th, but I was laid off in January, so I don't know if we'll get to it. But I definitely will do it again because it was
Yeah, yeah.
spectacular. And I love
And South
photography.
Africa's lovely too. It's a very different kind
That's
of
where we
country, though.
wanted, that's our
Yeah,
next where we want to go.
yeah, yeah. I highly recommend Kenya as well. So
How many have you
it's a
done?
big continent.
Mhm.
I've done 7. I
Wow.
did my first one in 1978, I think. So
Are
it's
you a
been
good
a few years.
photographer?
I am a photographer. I am my photographer, but yeah, I am a photographer.
Yeah, because I love
So I like
photography. So
that
like
part of it. Yeah.
that,
It's a great place for it.
yeah, we made sure to have our own truck because I didn't want other people in my
In your
photography
way.
way.
You don't like
Because I
that headshot in front of the giraffe?
yeah. Yeah, it's such an experience that really everybody,
It is. It
you know,
is. It's
and
remarkable to me.
we're Jersey people, but we lived in New York for so many years, and we were still, yeah, we had moved out of New York City after the safari. So, we'd been in New York for all these years, and then going to the Serengeti, which is endless. It's there's nothing like that when you grow up in this part of the country here on the East
There
Coast.
isn't much like that, I think, almost anywhere. And people always say, "What is it like?" And I said, "What's really interesting because you can imagine all these animals that we know in a way." But I said, "You're now the animal in the cage. You're now the one who can't roam freely, and they are out there in all their majesty, roaming freely and living their nature."
I'm
And it's
stealing that because
beautiful.
that is the best description ever I've
Isn't it
heard.
though? It's
Yes, it
true.
it is.
Is
Oh my
it,
God.
you're the
Yes.
animal in the cage because you're
Yes.
not getting out when the lioness is there with her cubs. I guarantee.
No. And those guides are just, for anybody watching this right now, check out a safari. But yeah, those guides are, I
Yeah.
mean, we're so lucky
They grew
that
up. They grew up with it. This is their childhood, going out, and you go and you talk to the Maasai or the Samburu, and it's just I don't know. It's just totally, totally amazing.
I'm going to send Rick a Instagram account for you to follow. It's a friend of mine. His name is Danny Noval. Danny has been on many, and he sort of wants to create a program, and he's been doing video, and he's a great photographer. He's just got some incredible videos out on Safari that I think because you love it, you
Oh,
might
I'd love
really,
it. I'd love
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Is that his name, or he has a special name for the account?
It's actually his account is Safari Dan. I'm pretty, yeah.
Safari Dan.
So
Okay, I'll remember
yes,
that. But
yeah, that's
you could
easy.
send it to
Safari.
Rick too. Maybe Rick will follow. He could use a good
I'm
Safari.
gonna just confirm. I think it is Safari Dan. Yeah, Safari underscore Dan underscore.
Okay. Okay.
Danny Navarro. He really helped us when we planned it.
Oh,
So yeah,
super.
yeah, it's something. Is it true that before you started acting, you appeared as
No.
a contestant on $100,000 pyramid or whatever it was called?
Yeah, it is true because, like I said, we moved to LA for my son's father to go to AFI, and I had taken a year off to be with my son. I knew I always wanted kids, and I'd saved my money as a model, um, because I never did get back to school, and so I was taking a year off. which was great. Thinking then I'll go back to my commercial career and do all of that. Tell me the question again. I'm buried in my own thoughts here.
On $100,000 pyramid.
Oh yeah. So my
Sorry.
son, that's okay. My son, who's probably now about maybe not quite one, but he's getting up there. I'm thinking about going back to work. But his two favorite things, he would watch Sesame Street, and then he watched whatever the thing was where you whammy the things. Anyway,
Yeah, I know
some
what
other
you're
game
talking about, but I
was
don't know
on
what
in the
that.
morning. Yeah, and in between that was, I think it was the $10,000 pyramid. I can't remember. So I'd watch him sitting there, with my son. Blah, blah, blah. I thought, well, I could do that. I could do that. So I did it.
I love that. Did you win anything?
Oh yeah, I won a trip to Paris. I won an Apple computer, which set me up for life to be a total Apple devotee. And oh, I am totally. I'm an Apple girl. And
I'm with you.
$65,000.
Wow, that is incredible.
Yeah.
I'm with you on the Apple. And
yeah.
one of the fans watching said, "Press your luck."
Oh, press your luck. Thank you so much. Fantastic. That is press your luck. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I guess I owe it to Sesame Street and press your luck that I got on Pyramid.
That's really something.
Yeah.
As I
You
mentioned
can still
earlier,
find it online if you
oh, is it?
tape it. And then, oh yeah, it's still around. But then the really fun thing is then when I became a celebrity, they had me back as a celebrity guest on the show.
Love that. Did you win then too?
Yeah. I won for other people. Oh, I was serious, man. I practiced, and I was just as serious then as I was when I was going for myself. I really wanted people to win money. I wouldn't
Are
give
you
all their
are you
money away.
competitive normally?
Well, I come from a very athletic family. My father was a football coach at Princeton. I mean, I'm
Right.
competitive in a good way. I'm not a bad loser, but I will try my best.
Yeah, that says it all with dad being a coach for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's instilled in you for sure.
It's in there. Yeah, it's in there.
Alfred Hitchcock Presents was your first. What do you remember about that experience?
Well, I remember my friend Tom Rickman, the screenwriter, the Oscar-winning screenwriter, who's unfortunately no longer with us. He and his wife I knew, and he had this little tiny part in this in the show. And he said, "Would you come in and you want to come and read for us?" Like, well, sure, okay. And I went in and I got hired for it. Probably helped to know the director, but I'd like to think I had some merits I brought to it. And it was, it was interesting because it was my first time on a Hollywood set. A commercial set's different than a show set. I mean, every set there's a lot of continuity between them and the threads that run through, but they all had their differences. Big budget movies, little budget movies, television shows, hours, dramas. It's all, they're all slightly different creatures. And so it was nice. It was a great way to start. And then the next job I got, I think, was this pilot in Hong Kong. So that was a big deal too. Yeah, for my career, agents and things like that after I got, because it was an Aaron Spelling show shot in Hong Kong. David Soul was the star.
Yeah.
It was great.
Touch, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Touch.
Yeah. It was also recently left us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And take me back to your audition for a 30-something. Will you tell everyone what you said to Ed Zwick and Marshall Herskovitz after reading the pilot script?
I read the script, which I loved. I thought it was great. And I walked into the room. I'd never met these gentlemen. I didn't know really anything about them. And they hadn't really done a lot. They didn't have a huge body of work at the time. They had a very popular, what I would call a movie of the week that was out. And I don't even remember the name. But anyway, I walked in and I said, hey, I want to know how long you've been living in my house. And I didn't know it. And they laughed. And then, I auditioned and that was it. And then I got a call back where they mixed and matched us with different actors of the group. And then I do remember something really lovely. So we went and we read for the network, and then you go and you first read for the network. I mean, the the studio, and then you read for the network. You audition in front of all the network biggies. It's not a slight thing, and which never really bothered me because I had this great other career and had my family. So if it didn't work out, well, okay. But so I went to ABC, which was Century City. I don't know anybody who knows LA, and I was living in the Hollywood Hills at the time. So let's say it was 30 minutes from the network audition to when I got home. And when I got home, my husband at the time was on the phone. He said, "It's for you." And I said, "Who is it?" He said, "It's Marshall Herskovitz." And I got on the phone. I don't know that this is a norm or not a norm. I have no idea. I got on the phone and Marshall said, "You've got the job." Which was, I thought, really, especially in the years as you go along, you realize that how lovely and personal that was to take the time to do that. And I always
It doesn't
appreciate
usually
that.
come from the producers. It comes
No, you hear
from,
from your agent
yeah.
usually, or your manager most likely, because you get them both on the phone. Actually, you get the manager and the agent on the phone. It's either usually really good news or really bad news. So, yeah, then I had the job, and 4 years later, we were plugging away.
Wow. Well, this September will mark 37 years since the show.
Holy camole.
Did you think the show would be as successful as it became when you were filming the pilot?
I don't think any of us knew. I had a bet with Ed that I said it would go 2 years. I know nothing about network television, nothing. And I learned from Harry's Hong Kong, which is the pilot I did in Hong Kong, that even veterans don't know because they were all shopping for homes and that kind of. I'm like, how do you know? How do you know? Of course they didn't, but even with that pedigree. So we didn't know it was so different than what was on television at the time, and it came to be very groundbreaking. And so I was very happy to win that bet. I don't remember what it was, and as I'm sure Ed and Marshall were as well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I hope so. Was there a moment for you when you realized it had, taken off? Like, was there, you being out on the street or an award that the show got or?
Yeah, well, by the time the awards came around, it was, you already sort of knew. I mean, there were a lot of reviews. There clearly is that part of it, but those were 50 negative and 50 positive. So um, it wasn't that way. And you were very busy working. But I do remember I was still living in the Hollywood Hills, going to the gas station in the store on a Saturday with my young son, who at the time was 3. And I think I was in the convenience store or something. I don't even know where I was. And someone came up to me and said, "Oh, you're Hope. You're that girl who's on that show." I'm like, yeah, yeah, I am. It was so foreign to me that anyone would really, really recognize me in the modeling world. Sometimes, but now the modeling world's a whole different beast of its own. But sometimes I get recognized from that, but nothing like 30-something. I still recognize because of 30-something whenever I'm out. I mean, the last big one was we were in Madrid at the Prada, the museum, and one of the people working there comes up. I got a ball cap on, a ponytail, no makeup. That's me. Um, she said, "You're Mel Harris." Oh my gosh, this is crazy. So it's really interesting, but my fans are lovely, lovely people, and they've
And
mostly been kind and generous with their thoughts and their compliments, which is nice. I feel very, very blessed to have that.
I read a post you shared, last September on the anniversary that you'd love to see this story continue. What can fans do to help? And here's the picture
Boy,
you.
yeah, there you go. There's our gang. Well, we were gonna go, and COVID literally between we read for the network, we read for ABC for the network, and literally between the network read through and the network dinner that was supposed to happen that night, they canceled. Well, they canceled at that point, but they postponed the show because of COVID. And ours is another victim of that. And I know that that Ed and Marshall and Peter Horton have been trying to sell it. And then in the course of those events, 30-something itself is owned by MGM, which now is owned by Amazon. And I know they were trying to get Amazon to do it, but as of late, Amazon has given the boys, as I will call them, their good graces to go and sell it anywhere that they would like, which I know that they're working on. So just, the best thing you can do if you want to see 30-something else or whatever it would be called now is just keep tweeting about it and talking about how much you like it and following the people who were in the show, because that shows that there is an audience for it, which I do believe it is. And the cast they had for our kids was great. And it's a little piece of something that I miss didn't happen yet.
And it's not streaming currently?
Well, that's the thing. It used to be you could get the DVDs on Netflix, but it never streamed anywhere, even though MGM owned it. I never really understood that. And now with Amazon owning it, I mean, what a slam dunk even just to show the 30-something and not even make the new show.
Right. Yeah.
It's not my money, so I don't get to make that decision.
No. Well, speaking of those people, tell me what comes to mind when I, start mentioning your co-stars' names. Timothy Busfield.
Oh, God. Oh, I just love Tim. He makes you laugh. He's full of joy, and he's a wonderful person.
Polly Draper.
Polly can cry on cue better than anybody I know. These are my first impressions. There you go.
I think that always impresses people, when an actor can do that. You're like,
yeah. She did it in the pilot, and I had never done it before, and I was just like, holy cow. Wow. You're good.
And you mentioned Peter Horton.
Peter. He's lovely. I mean, he's a very talented director, and he's a great guy. I mean, it's a great group of 7. I'm going to say everybody's a great guy because there isn't anybody that I don't love, not even like that I don't love. And so.
But isn't that lucky? Because that doesn't always happen.
It almost never happens. No, really, it's true. And that I could call any one of them today and ask for a favor, and they would almost 1,000,000% do it, as they could to me. We know about each other's children, and we occasionally reunion, not as much as possible. We're sort of living all over. But yeah, it's just, we have we have a 30-something text thread that sometimes gets, ignited by something. And it's always wonderful and amusing and funny. And
that is the great thing about a group chat.
Rowdy sometimes, but yeah. Yeah, no, it is. It is. Yeah.
Sometimes they can be a lot, but I think sometimes a random, just funny that somebody, thought of something is so nice that it's, just puts a smile. Melanie Mayron.
Oh, God, Melanie, just the salt of the earth, beyond talented. I don't know if anyone's watched Julia. Have you seen Julia? The television show?
Yeah,
Super,
I loved it.
which she actually was in a little bit and directed many of the episodes.
Oh, wow. My friend worked on it as he was like the production manager or something on the series. So I was bummed. Yeah, he must know.
He must know Melanie, I'm sure, because I think she did a few episodes every season. And she's just great. Another person always there for you, always, caring and kind and giving, and a really talented director. She's got a great skincare company. I don't know if anybody knows that. Mayron's Goods. I'll sell it for you, baby. That she created with her father, who was a chemist.
I love that. That's father
Mayron's
and daughter.
Goods.
Father and daughter.
Nice.
Yeah. That's terrific. Your on-screen husband, Ken Olin.
Great on-screen husband, great friend. We supported each other. We were together constantly, 24/7 for the first 2 years. And talk about an actor you could always count on to be there and to be there for you, and vice versa. You know, we worked really well together, and another incredibly talented director producer. In and you know, so I was really blessed that Kenneth was my TV husband.
And certainly not least Patricia Wettig.
Oh, Patty's great also. Incredibly talented, wonderful to have on the set as a friend in a scene. Um, you know, and she and Kenny are married, so there was
Yeah.
always that dynamic, which was lovely and interesting. But Patty and I spent a lot of time under the Steadman's kitchen table with those babies, um, and she's great. She's great.
Did you know anybody before you got there?
Mm-mm, not a soul. So let's see. Peter knew Ed and Marshall. Patty and Ken knew Marshall, I think, from like preschool or something. I think that those are the only ones I know that knew each other, but I didn't know anybody.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
And the fact that you all
Mhm.
bonded. Do you have a favorite episode or storyline?
You know, there's so many. Um, I can't pick one. I loved the original, the year one Christmas story. That was really lovely. Um, and it was, you know, the episodes they were all different, and yet they were based on these characters who were friends, sometimes yelling at each other, sometimes not. So there were
Hmm.
lots of moments. I remember that Hope and Michael having a fight, and then and there's this, we're getting dressed to go out, and at the end of the fight, there's just this pool of silence that you would rarely see in a show, let alone a television show. And that was impactful in terms of how you do things. And so it just there were so many that were really wonderful. You know, I got to work with Shirley Knight and people like that. So it was really great. I met Brad Pitt. He was one of his first jobs on our show as our babysitter's boyfriend. Um,
I didn't remember that.
so
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, blessed, lucky, in the right place at the right time. Um, and that I still have all of that in my life now. Like, we all got together when we were going to film 30 something else, and we were going to film in Jersey, actually. Just at the read
Oh,
throughs and
really?
the fittings, and yeah, we were going to shoot in, I guess, in Secaucus. We were. They had
Yeah.
offices and
Okay.
everything. I mean, it was a go project for the pilot. Um, it's like we never, and when we get together, it's like we just saw each other on the set the day before. Although we
Wow.
look
So
a
you
little
were
older.
really that, I didn't realize you were that close to taking off,
No, we
to
were
filming.
days from filming. Yeah. But COVID did that
Oh,
to
how
everything.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, that they made nothing, and they picked up, I think they picked up one David Kelly, you know, sold commitment show or something. It was really awful for every business, not just ours. And for
Right.
people.
Yeah. I
Unfortunately, a
mean,
lot of people
and for
lost their
people.
lives. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. One of the fans, Clay, is asking, "Do you have any memories of Something So Right?" I
Hi,
really
Clay.
enjoyed that show.
Oh, Clay, I love you. Thank you, darling. I have so many memories. Jerry Burns and I just we had a ball doing it and shooting it. And for me, it was a wonderful opportunity because I remember having lunch with the writers and executive producers, and saying, they said, "Well, why should we hire you for this show? I mean, you haven't really done comedy." I said, "Comedy," and I said, "Well, no, that's true." I said, "But I must tell you that I am a really, really hard worker, um, and I think I'm pretty funny." And they hired me. Excuse me.
I love that. And that's what your mother taught you, that confidence.
Excuse me. She did indeed. I'm gonna sip of water.
That's terrific. Eric said, I'd love to know if Mel has any memories of her TV movie Child of Rage. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember it didn't have the happiest of endings.
Yeah, it was a very based on a true story about a excuse me, I think it was a reverend and his wife who adopt an older child. I think she was 6 or 7, and she just it doesn't go well. They adopt her
Oh,
and
wow.
her little brother. It was a very powerful it was a powerful show to do, especially as a mother myself of children pretty much the same age. So yeah, yeah.
And you have 2 kids and stepkids, correct?
I do. I do. I have 2 that I birthed and 2 that I didn't birth.
Did any of the 4, since your husband's in the business as well, follow in mom and dad's footsteps?
Well, only my son, who is a comic. He's an improvisationalist.
Ah.
You can check him out on Improv Ambassador on YouTube or on Instagram, as long as I'm plugging him. He's really feckin' funny. That's all I have to say. He's sharp. My son is sharp, fast, and funny.
Oh, I love that. I'm
So
gonna look
just
him
him.
up.
The others are doing lovely things too.
Speaking of you loving comedy, is there a comedy you're watching or recently you watched that you love?
No, I've been watching crime dramas and the Taylor Swift concert and things like that. That's pretty much what I've been doing. And building my house up here. So
Do you do that yourself? I mean,
to build my house.
some stuff. I mean, or more design
Oh, this
elements.
is the 13th house that I've built. So I consider it my full-time hobby as a house renovator, builder. Sometimes I general them. I actually generaled my first jobs in Los Angeles and Santa Monica. That's why I ended up first doing it. So, but I've designed it. I mean, with the help of an architect who drew plans. But I do the kitchens and the bathrooms and the ordering and all of the stuff. And I wield a mean drill. Yeah.
What's your favorite part of the design element? Is it the kitchen or bathroom, or is it just the
If I
overall?
were picking a room, it would be a kitchen because the logical part of my brain goes along with the design part of my brain in terms of doing it. This one was particularly challenging because we had an old house and we put an addition on, but I didn't want it to just look like an addition. I wanted it to meld together. And so I created it's a room, it's a space called a dining way, which technically the dining room table is there, but it connects the 2 pieces of the house. So it's the way back and forth from one to the other.
I love.
I just like it. I don't know. Sometimes it drives me crazy. I will tell you that. But I'm very lucky, have a lovely crew doing this. And um, yeah, I don't know. Something in my brain. I didn't come from that at all. My first place I did was an apartment that I bought in New York City in probably the late 70s that was under construction. It was just 2x4s. And I just started doing it. I don't know. I just
Wow.
guess I think I can do better than maybe what I see.
When this house is done, will you possibly purchase another to do something with? Like, do you
I
buy and
imagine
resell?
sometimes I often live in them. I mean, this is our home right now, but sometimes I've had, 2 projects going at the same time. Um, and sometimes I sell them. I mean, I've sold a lot of them. I don't. This is the only one that I own now. But I had an apartment house. I had a brownstone in New York City that I renovated and
Wow.
did work
What
on
part of the
that
city?
in Harlem, actually.
Oh,
In
God.
Harlem, which was wonderful, fantastic neighborhood. We love living there.
Oh, that
Um,
must have been beautiful.
Beautiful. It actually
Yeah.
reminds me. I love Paris also, but Harlem very much reminds me of Paris in many ways because the buildings are low, and so you have the sky, which if you're in Midtown, you don't have.
No.
Doesn't You don't get it in the same way. So, yeah,
And
my
Paris
love
is,
for the Paris
one of
is
my
lovely.
favorite cities in the world.
Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, I don't know. The design thing just sort of, I don't know, came along, appealed to me. I liked it.
Oh, wow. My Tony, who's watching, said Ashley Peldon played a little girl in Child of Rage.
She
I
beautifully played a little girl. And if you were to see this role, that this child could play this role and be this lovely, sweet, it was a really, really amazing performance.
So she was a child on Guiding Light, which I did PR for many years after
Oh, then you
she
remember
was.
then, yes.
Yeah, but she is now a doctor. She's, I think, a
Really?
doctor of, I think it's psychology. She might be like a really successful.
Wow.
Yep, crazy, but
Wow,
yeah,
that's wonderful. No, she was
yeah.
fantastic and a really, really great actress.
Wow, I love that he just remembered. He knows everything. Tony, Mel, it is such a pleasure to meet you.
Back at you. Thank you. We should do this again.
Absolutely. Let me know the next project. Check out Safari
Absolutely.
Dan and
Sorry,
everybody
Dan. Yeah,
watching,
well, maybe
please.
I'll see you at the farmer's market up here.
Yeah. We're coming up there for Memorial Day weekend, I believe. So yeah.
That would be beautiful. It'll be
Yeah,
beautiful.
I hope
Everything's
so.
just starting to bloom, and it's really a nice time.
Well, and everybody watching, please check out Queen of Knives. Thanks again, Mel.
Yes,
Have a great
thank
afternoon.
you.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. Thank you to Mel Harris. Queen of Knives is available now to rent, own on all digital HD, internet, cable, and satellite platforms worldwide. Please join me tomorrow when Disney legend Andreas Deja joins me live to discuss his 10-year labor of love, a new short animated film called Mushka. And he will also look back at his incredible 30-year career at the Walt Disney Studios, where I first met him, where he created some of the most iconic villains ever to hit the screen. Gaston, Jafar, and Scar from The Lion King. If you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Turn on the notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. And if you liked today's episode, which I hope you did, click the like button. And remember, you can download audio versions by searching The Locker Room on your favorite streaming platform. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Please stay safe as always, and I'll see you tomorrow.